You are listening to the Success Leaves Clues podcast, where we're having conversations with regular people doing outstanding and legacy-changing things in corporate America and entrepreneurship. If you're looking for the blueprint to help you make less mistakes on your journey to freedom and ultimate purpose, then this is the podcast for you. And now, here's your host, Dr. K. Dr. K.
So glad to be here with the curiosity specialist. And I got to start with that because you got me going. So what is the curiosity specialist? What does the curiosity specialist do?
Oh, perfect question. I love this question because that's essentially what we do here at David Duncan and Associates. The curiosity specialist is someone that sparks positive curiosity in scholars. We help schools and organizations do that through restorative practices. So essentially it's basically sitting down with students in a safe space, creating a safe environment for students to say, okay, what am I going through? How do I put words to it? How do I figure out who I am and develop the right words and basically dialogue to get to the possibilities in life? Because a lot of people have a hard time just seeing more for themselves and thinking about what's possible for themselves. So that's what we do here. And as a curiosity specialist, I'm the one that's leading the charge, sparking that curiosity, leading the conversation with that for them.
Yeah. Why is curiosity so important to help people, I guess, get out of their own way or change? Why did you use curiosity for that?
The best way to put it, I got to give you a story. So when I was young, I was a very shy kid, but that shyness was overcome by my level of curiosity. And we've always heard the phrase like curiosity killed the cat. But curiosity is not something that kills you. It's actually something that brings a new light and a new perspective and exposure to a place that you are. So when I was growing up, being that shy young kid, not being able to look people in the eye, have, full dialogue conversations with people, I got to a point where I got more courageous than shy. And it was only because of my curiosity. I just started realizing, there's somebody out here, or I'm seeing somebody doing something. I'm like, how do they do that? That's curiosity. It's those questions that we have in our minds that intrigue us, that lead us to want to know more. And that's what curiosity is to me, at least.
Yeah, and you're right. Like curiosity killed the cat, and those type of phrases and analogies and things like that has always helped me back personally, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like people are telling you, don't go after your dreams. Don't pursue this thing because there might be pain or failure on the other side of that.
Yeah. And it's a shame because there's a lot of statements, there's a lot of things that we believe from tradition that hold us back, that we accept because somebody else told us those things. And if we didn't have our own level of curiosity, we would be stuck in those spaces by the statements and questions and even the, let's say, limiting beliefs of others, instead of creating our own, pathway, our own journey to finding out, what does this really mean to me? And is this really what I believe?
Yeah. And we get forced to have limiting beliefs, right? They're usually put on us by somebody else. And what are some things, or do you have some tangible or exact references on how you overcome those limiting beliefs?
There's a quote that always comes to mind when I think about it, and it comes from Otis Brown, and it goes like, they may see your glory, but they will never understand your story. And storytelling is the oldest form of entertainment. And I've heard this quote as well of like, what entertains you trains you. So the stories that we listen to, the traditions that we have, and not to say that they're not necessary, because traditions through storytelling has moved us through culture for centuries. I mean, from hunter-gatherers to civilization. Yeah. But we have to understand that some stories, we have to know who's the teller and understand why they tell those stories. But then also give pause and allow ourselves to realize, okay, where are these questions coming from? Or where are these stories coming from? Why do they tell these stories? And what part of these stories relate to me so I can move and take those stories and allow it to be like, okay, this part of the story makes sense to me. This part of the story doesn't make sense to me. Do I want to know more about this story? But how are these stories making me as a person? First, think about who am I? Second, it makes us think what's possible. But third, makes us realize what do we say to achieve what's possible? Those are the three things that I feel like when it comes to storytelling, that without those three questions, we get stuck accepting what people tell us and get stuck accepting the limiting beliefs from stories that people give us.
Yeah. When you get into a point where you are really good at storytelling, I think that's important to help change people and bring people to the next level, because people usually can see themselves in your story, right? Whether they are identifying exactly with what you've been through, but they still have some way of visualizing themselves in your story.
Man, and I've been a big fan of storytelling since a child. I think it's probably my second love. My first love was music. Then it got into storytelling, and that's what helped me. At least prior to opening up this firm, I was in the entertainment industry for nearly a decade, working behind the scenes on a lot of different TV shows, commercials, movies. And that's what led me into that industry. But if I never accepted the love that I had for storytelling, I would have never have gotten that far, and led me to at least the curiosity within myself that I try to bring out in other students, or even mostly adults as well, but definitely students. I feel like students are the ones that, at least for the future tense, especially when it comes to like technology advancement, it's really starting with the questions, the prompts that we have to give to then get to allowing us to relate to each other.
Yeah, a lot of people probably wouldn't see the analogy from what you've done in your path with the music industry, and then going into, speaking and developing people. But one of my favorite groups is Outkast, so the art of storytelling, right?
Yeah.
And I think music really does have is really deep rooted in storytelling and bringing people into their world to let them see, okay, this is what I've been through and this is how I've seen things.
Yeah, I mean, storytelling is one of those things that it's funny because it's almost like saying, like, people don't remember what you do, but how you make them feel. But how do you make them feel is through the story you tell or the emotion that you bring up. And that's what good storytelling is. And good storytelling sparks that emotion in you. It may be anger, it may be positivity, it may be negative thoughts, but it may be also a chance to say, this is different. Why is it different? That's what good storytelling does. It makes you question your current train of thought, but also puts you on a different path to saying, like, okay, this is how I divvy this way, and this is how I go this way.
Yes. What is your goal to reach, the certain group of kids, or what end goal are you trying to get to for this?
End goal, three main things. I want to help students figure out, who am I in this world? Help them figure out, who am I? Because that's very much based in our self-esteem. Everybody has a level of, if you don't have a level of confidence, you won't be able to do anything in the world, to be honest, just straight up like that. Then the next thing is finding out what's possible. What's possible is essentially exposure, level of exposure, and figuring out, and that's really in that critical thinking space. Because a lot of times when I've been when I interact with students, they're very quick to say, if I ask them a question that's tough, they're quick to say, I don't know.
Yeah.
Cop out. Like, and it's nothing against them, but it's an easy way it's easily showing that critical thinking is not front of mind. And that's a very big thing that's coming along when it comes to our advancement in technology. You got to be able to make quality decisions and level of decision making. The third thing I want to address is what to say to achieve what's possible. And that's really addressing the fear of public speaking. As a speaker, it's not a thing that everybody wakes up in the morning and say, oh, I'm looking forward to talking in front of a bunch of people. That's not the case. It's not.
Yeah.
But communication is a skill that we use every single day. So what's really the difference? And that's the point I'm trying to get to these students. It's like, hey, I know it's a fear right now, but you're going to have to use your skill of communicating your rest of your life. Why not get better at it now? Why not get to a place where you know who you are, you know what you want to do with yourself, you see yourself in a space where at least I know how to take in information and make a quality decision after that. Once you make that quality decision, okay, how do I now take my words and not just the words, because that's another thing about communication I've been learning, or I like to impose on the students as well. When it comes to communication, it's three things. It's our body language, our tone, and then our words. And there's a lot of data that comes around that says that body language and tone is probably about 90% of what people actually pay attention to. Then it's your words. So it's understanding that you have to have the right posture. You got to have the right tone of voice. And then your words, which comes from your decision making, you can implement that and it helps you along the way. Because growing up, working in the industry has helped me understand that it's not about what you know, it's who you know. And who you know will teach you what you need to know. But that's only after that's only after they see that, hey, this person is willing to put in the work for themselves. Why not help them out?
Yeah, exactly. I can't help somebody that won't help themselves.
Prime example.
I can give you all the tools, but if you're not willing to use them.
What are we doing this here? What are we wasting our time for? That's the point that I'm trying to get to, at least to get to these students, because they're going to grow up to be the people that are going to solve the problems of the future. And if they don't have the right self-esteem, confidence, they're not going to say, I can solve that problem. But if they don't have the right critical thinking, they're never going to at least try. They're never going to at least, and that's another thing that I try to tell students. Mistakes are normal. Mistakes are human. You're a human being. You're going to make mistakes. And that mistakes doesn't mean that you're a failure. It actually means that you're trying. It shows that you're trying. And in a world nowadays, the more attempts you put up, the more chance of you actually scoring.
Come on.
Yeah.
There's no way to get ahead without doing that, right? So if you look at, you take sports, you take football, for example, and you might not have a touchdown, but you're going to move the chains, right? You're going to keep moving the goal, line forward and forward and forward until finally you get to the point where you want to be. And I don't see that as failure.
No. It's funny, even with using the football analogy as well. Somebody was saying, like, we're so focused on getting touchdowns, but the real journey or the real focus should be getting first downs. You get enough first downs, you're going to get a touchdown. And
absolutely.
And that's something that, at least for students, they are so, it's all or nothing. And that's a very tough place to live in life. Like, it can't be all or nothing. We should be more focused on the journey than the destination. Because
it reminds me, I read this book recently. It's called The Gap in the Game. And the important concept of the book is what you just said. It's all or nothing. Sometimes people look at that and they're saying, okay, well, I failed or I didn't make it. But did you look back at your starting point? And if you look back at your starting point and see how far you've come, you'll realize that you actually are being successful. You are making progress. But you're too busy looking at, like you said, the end zone. And you don't realize, okay, I've made a 30-yard run, or whatnot. But you may have fell short of the end zone, but you're still making huge progress.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, I'm a victim of it as well, but also I think that's what allows me to be a specialist, or allows me to be someone that's authentic to the students, because they know, and I tell this to them all the time, like, I used to be in your seats. That's the main reason why I even started my firm. That's the main reason why I even considered speaking as a career goal or career path for myself, because when I was a student in the seats like them, people came in and started to speak, give life into me, pour into me. And if I wasn't someone that was receptive to that information, I wouldn't be the young man I am today. So that's the point that I'm trying to get to them, is like, it's the journey. It's never really the destination. Destinations are fleeting. It was something that I was even watching Myron Golden. He's someone that he's been a mentor to me like off the internet. And that's another thing. Like mentors could be anything. It could be a book. It could be a podcast or
Yeah,
something
me
like
too.
that.
I'm a huge Myron fan, man. So I'm with you.
Yeah. So he was talking about how as soon as you say the word now, it's not now anymore. It's the past.
Yeah.
It's gone immediately. And that's what we do when we think about goals. We are always at a place where we think, okay, I want to get to this goal, but as soon as you hit it, in my mind, and I'm a victim of it too, I'm thinking about the next goal, but we're not. We have to understand that, like you said, it's the journey. It's the fact that, hey, if I look back, I moved a couple yards. Those couple yards, that's a big deal. We should count those wins as gratitude. And I'm a big fan of, not a big fan, but I would say, I tell the students all the time, have an attitude of gratitude. Because if you have an attitude of gratitude, and this is especially someone that, for me, my faith is one of my biggest pillars. Like it's, I would be remiss if I didn't talk about God in this space, because it would be hard to not have those moments of gratitude if I didn't know how far God took me or allowed me to get here. So I know it's tough to kind of bring that up in schools, but in a way, it's always there. That constant understanding, the attitude of gratitude, making sure that I'm grateful for the fact that I could wake up this morning with all my senses. I could walk. I could do my workout this morning. I got my limbs. But in that space, that gives room to say, I'm a good steward of the little things. So when God sees,
so you're ready for the big thing. How can you handle it?
Exactly. That's my main goal in life. I want to say that God gave me this idea and he saw what I did with it. So when he sees like, okay, I got another problem I need the world to solve, I could give it to David, because I saw what David did with the other ideas. So that's the space where I'm in right now, man.
Man, I love that. I also like the way you tied something together. So you started talking about the fear of public speaking. And I've seen reports that fear is not fear. Public speaking is the number one fear. Like, bigger than death, bigger than snakes, bigger than arachnophobia, all that. So, but the point that you made is that people actually utilize speaking every day.
Right.
And I think it's important for these young adults to get that from you, because how are they going to go have life skills, job interview skills? How are they going to get promoted because they can't present themselves on the job day to day? And that's something huge for them to overcome.
Yeah. That's something that, and I think in my research and understanding just with students, the reason why it's such a big fear is because we as humans are very judgmental. By our judgmental nature, we realize that if I go into a space, because I'm so judgmental of myself or others, I'm assuming everybody else is judging me. At that point, we losing the game and we haven't even started. And it's all in our mind. It's all in our mind. So that's the thing that I usually try to get across to people. Like, judge not. You have to understand, you got to let go of that judgment. If you let go of that judgment, then you're moving in the right pace. So it's just, we have to let go of that judgment. And that judgment is the thing that's holding us back the most. Because if we allow ourselves to move past that judgment, we might be in a space to actually be a vessel and serve others. Because that's what this communication thing is. And the best way to put it, leadership is the number one skill in the world. There is no cap on how much you can make as a leader. There's CEOs, there's people in the world that make millions, billions of dollars because they know how to communicate a vision, know how to galvanize people, know how to bring people together through their communication skills. So
absolutely,
if we get over our fear, there's no limit to what we could do. And that's what I talk about when it comes with like what's possible and critical thinking, decision making. You have to be able to get past that fear. It's a mindset thing. It's always a mindset thing.
How did you transition from, a path of entertainment and music into being something that's a little more, music and entertainment is useful, but more geared towards the youth. Why did you make that transition?
So I would say music was like very early on in life. I started playing drums and things like that. But I say the entertainment industry that I was a part of was more of like television, movies, commercials. And that transition happened very recently, actually. I would say I realized at some point that it's a skill set and I need to be able to use the skills that I have in order to get to the next phase in life. So when I first started off in the entertainment industry, it was only because I had a goal. I wanted to get in. I didn't know how I was going to get in, but it it worked out because I put myself in the environment. Short story. When I was in college, I was playing basketball. My first major I had was computer information systems. I was failing that major. I ended up getting kicked off the team, had to sign a one-time waiver to get back on the team. But a teammate of mine was saying, hey, transfer into this journalism major. You might like it. I took his advice and I did. I ended up transferring in, getting on the dean's list the next semester. But
Wow.
the opening, and I know that's like a big deal. Like not to like gloss over. That's not to gloss over because I went from like lower than a 2.0 to dean's list. So it's like that's what happens when you change your environment. So the changing of that environment, when I'm in video journalism classes, I'm impacting people. I'm like working on the school radio station. I'm having my own show and things like that. And I'm realizing, oh, I can help motivate people. And it's funny, my show at the time, it was called the question I would always start with, like, what's your motivation? So that was probably the first time I ever thought about being like a speaker or something like that. So the next phase of it, I had to get an internship to graduate for that degree. Took an internship in Atlanta, Georgia, not knowing anybody there at the time, the internship was free at that. So, I had to make some money at that point, but God worked out because he had a place for me already. There was a mentor of mine who's still a big mentor of mine. He knew me since I was a kid and he allowed me to stay there. He had a room, he had a car for me and just also a space where he was a man that helped me develop my own understanding as a man in this world. And that was like super big for me. So working my way through the industry, I started off doing security for Love and Hip Hop. And that gave me the entryway to actually being on set. At this point, I still don't know what I want to do on set, but I know I want to be in the industry. I know it's always, and it was at the time I was thinking like, oh, you make more money behind the scenes than you do in front of the camera. So I'd rather be behind the scenes. Ooh. So, and don't take that lightly. You do wait.
Come on,
you make more money. You make more money behind the scenes. And that's not just also on the set, but owning the IP. And that's a whole nother conversation. But I'm gonna just leave that in there for everybody to understand. You got to own the IP, the intellectual property. Mm-hmm. When I finally get on set, I start asking questions. This is when my curiosity starts kicking in. I'm like, okay, what does that person do? What does this person do? And I'm realizing it's not just a bunch of random people moving around. It's actually team. It's a bunch of teams working together to achieve a goal. And when I was playing basketball, that was something that I could relate to because I understood playing my role. So when I finally get through my industry, I get to a company, I finally get on set and I realize, okay, I want to go into the camera department and become a director of photography or a cinematographer. At that point, and this is what I want to let your audience know. Once you start to have an intention, you're going to start, it's going to get a lot clearer because then that's when you start to communicate with people. I'm now realizing, okay, I want to be in the camera department. Let me start talking to camera people, asking them, how did you get here? What did you do? Oh, where are you from? And those conversations led into opportunities for me to be in part of the camera department. And then it just, by God's grace, it led me into a company that I most recently was working with. They're called Assignment Desk / Go-To Crews, where they train director of photographies to work with high-level clients, news networks, sports networks, corporate clients. Yep. I got in with them, but not even on the first try. I had to apply twice. And that's the resilience that you have to have in these spaces when it comes to curiosity, because I mean, Myron says it best, like after intention comes disruption. Once you start saying, I want to do this thing, the world's going to start throwing things at you, or you're going to get in your own way. Your own mindset is going to start saying, oh, you can't do that. You don't deserve that. And that's the biggest lie you've ever been told, that you don't deserve good things. You don't deserve.
You said it before, those limiting beliefs.
Limiting beliefs, man. Those things are, and there are things that those limiting beliefs come from probably family. It probably comes from tradition. But we have to realize this world is something that we have to use as a space to unlearn, relearn, and learn. We have to learn, unlearn, relearn. That's the same cycle. Learn, unlearn, relearn. It's the same cycle. But just to kind of land the plane on that story of how I got to speaking, when I moved to Atlanta, that was like my first eye-opening experience to what entrepreneurship looked like. So with going through just my curiosity at that time, it just got to a point where, okay, this is what an entrepreneur does. They find a problem, they create a solution behind it, they package up that offer and promote it to that audience that has that problem.
Yeah.
I always knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I just didn't know what my problem was until I got to the industry and I realized, okay, I know storytelling is my thing, but sometimes not everybody has that. But when I got to a point where I realized, okay, I learned all the skills that I needed to be able to communicate the skill set of storytelling to others, I was like, okay, let me find out what the problems are in my community. But it's not hard to do that because I grew up in my community. So I know what the problems are. Yeah. I know. I was one of those kids. And the best way to say it is that I became the person that I needed, or the people that poured into me when I was young. So I'm only paying it forward. That's why I transitioned into opening my firm. I want to pay it forward. I want to inspire that next generation, because if I don't do it, somebody else is going to do it. But there's going to be a kid that needed to hear me say it the way I say it and the way I look saying it.
Exactly.
That's really where that transition came from. I got the skill sets, and then I realized, okay, it's my time to now go pay it forward, because I was always raised to be a leader.
Yeah, and I applaud you for what you did throughout this journey. And like you said, there was times when you didn't really know the way forward, but you trusted and you believed that you're going to get to your desired end goal. And I was thinking of your firm as just using the word curiosity, but this is something that you actually live while you were on set. You know, some people don't have a knack for using that curiosity and say, hey, I'm going to go talk to the videographers. I'm going to talk to the writers. I'm going to talk to these different people, because they feel like I was hired or designed to do this one job.
Right.
And they're going to stay in that one box.
It's limiting beliefs not only hold us back in our mind, but hold us back when it comes to the tools that we need to adjust or the skills that we need to have. You know, I realized that, and this is from everybody needs to have a coach, bottom line, or somebody that's helping you move along in life. And my coach told me this: you need three things in life. You need a mindset, you need a skill set, and you need a toolkit. You need a mindset, you need a toolkit, and you need a skill set. So when I realized I had a mindset for curiosity, then I just need to realize, okay, what is my skill set? How do I put that in a space where I'm valuable to the world? Then when I develop that skill set, by developing that skill set, it's going to tell me what tools I need. So those are the things that we all need in life. We need to have the right mindset about things. We then need to have the right understanding of what that skill set looks like around that mindset, because we all have a gift. And that's the thing I really tell students all the time. You have a gift, you have a talent, you have a purpose that if you do it, nobody else is going to do it just like you. So take the time to develop that skill set, because then if you develop that skill set, the toolkit will come after that.
I like that. I'm gonna have to jot that down, take it with me. Don't let me screw it up. But you need a mindset, a skill set, and a toolkit.
Yep.
All right,
man. You need those three things.
Yeah, those three things. So you package that up and you take that. What age group do you primarily see your firm working with?
So we work with students from elementary all the way to college. So we have definitely, you can't say the same thing that you would say to a college student to an elementary kid, but that's the power of storytelling, the ability to make it relatable to the audience that's listening. So we work with all students. We work with students from elementary all the way up to college.
Awesome. And so for those college age students, I mean, they're obviously, like you said, they're in a different headspace, and their life is going somewhere different than the elementary school kid.
Mm-hmm.
Are you helping them to get more so life skills, get out of their own way, job related skills?
Well, I would say it's more of life skills, because one thing that I know, that the world's not going to look the same. It's not the same now, because I remember growing up in a world where there was no cell phones or internet. But there also is a world that there's kids that's growing up that they know, or they're growing up with technology. And even with the advancement of AI, they're going to be growing up in a world that we have no idea is going to look like. But the thing that we all have is a mind. We all have a mindset. So as long as I can help them develop the proper mindset, they'll be able to adjust to whatever they need in the world. And that's probably the main goal of my firm, is to help adjust their mindset to the ever-changing world around them, because we just don't know what it's going to look like.
Yeah, once they get that in their toolkit, right? Once they establish that inside their toolkit, it doesn't really matter what the job is. It doesn't matter what the world, the picture of the world changes to be, because now they've got those skills that they can say, okay, look, I can pull this out and I can adapt and I can change, as time changes.
And even that's a good point as well. Like job titles nowadays are going to be completely different. It's going to be completely different. I think even, for example, prior to 2000 or even 2010, the word or the job title of social media manager or content creator was not a thing. It was not a thing. So, but that was only developed because of advancement of technology, but also the problem of people realizing, oh, I now need to manage my social media. Who do I put in that space? And that's what I try to get to students, especially at that college level, of like, hey, what problems are you, tied to? What are the things that keep you, what frustrates you enough that you feel like there should be a solution to this? Why is there not a solution? That's the problem you should be solving in your life, or trying to solve, using your gifts and talents to go after and make those solutions. Because now, in the future to come, it's going to be value based. How are you adding value? How are you adding value? And adding value is by seeing a problem, creating a solution, and then bringing that package offer to the person or the people that have those problems. And if you could do that, and that's what I tell students all the time, if you could do that, you would never have to worry about income, because it's going to be a byproduct of the impact that you're making in the world. It's going to be a byproduct.
Yeah, it kind of goes back to the statement you was making about learn, unlearn, and relearn. Mm-hmm. Because if you can do that, then it also doesn't matter how things change.
No.
Right? Because you have the ability to learn. You have the ability to dissect certain things and say, look, I can now unlearn the way I used to do it and not be stuck or in my own way. And I can try it a different way and keep going.
It's the power of the pivot, man. It's the power of the pivot. Me playing basketball.
Hey.
Listen, I got quotes for days, but I'll tell you, we're going to sit here for a while. I'm going to tell you, I'm a big fan of Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant is one of my favorite players that, to me, he was always someone that was like that person that was willing to not adjust to his environment, but make the environment adjust to him. But that's only because he put that time in the practice. But when I was watching him play, I always watched him in the post. Like, I loved how his footwork was. And I mean, he got that from MJ, but I think his way of using his pivot foot, it was just something that when I was playing, it helped me a lot. but I kind of use those notions of using your pivot just the same way like I pivoted from a computer information system major into a video journalism major. Don't be afraid to pivot. Being able to pivot means that you have enough critical thinking to understand that this is no longer working anymore. Okay, there's another way to do it. Let me go this way. And I mean, on a basketball level, if you could control your pivot, you're unstoppable. You're unstoppable. I'm telling you that. Anybody that's playing ball right now, they understand. They understand.
Listen, I'm 100% sold on the pivot analogy and the way Kobe would, step around, pivot, step around the defender, and then have an open shot. But I got to debate with you a little bit.
Come on, let's talk about it.
Because you know what's coming.
Let's talk about it. Go ahead.
LeBron James got it, but I'm just going to sneak it.
I'm not even, I got to a point now where I realize that debate is very one-sided because
pointless too.
Yeah, they're different generations. And I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, this is not the case for every song, but the remix is always better than the original, to be honest. So some cases, that's why most people say Kobe is the GOAT, not over MJ, because he took what MJ had and took it into a new environment and made it better. But what LeBron has done, and I'm a big fan of LeBron too. I'm not going to sit here and say that he's not the GOAT. He is by far broken every stat. He's won as much championships as he can. So it's like those spaces only come from people that see what people did before them, take the skill sets that that those people have, and added their own flavor to it. And their own flavor took them to another level. And that's what the power of a pivot. That's what understanding what your story is, understanding who you are, where you are in your space. That's what makes you somewhat of a generational talent, because then you're allowed the freedom to say, okay, this is how people did it before me. What worked? Let me take those things, put it into my skill set, my toolkit, and apply.
I love the way you broke that down, and I honestly agree with you. I just want to talk trash because we brought up basketball. But I grew up as a Jordan fan. That was my era. So Jordan was the GOAT, man. Posters on my wall.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's everything, right? I still wear, I got his shoes years and years later. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then Kobe and then LeBron. But I think about it too in the space that you're in for speaking. And Eric Thomas is the greatest speaker there is. But it wouldn't have been without a Les Brown, without a John C. Maxwell, right? And so E.T. is the GOAT, but they're GOATs too. You know what I mean? It's not saying anything bad about Les Brown.
No. And they're needed. They're needed in that journey. Because that's the powerful thing of exposure. Like, we need to be exposed to powerful things. How will we know what's possible? Even in that sense of like that curiosity for me came because I realized other powerful people are doing things. Like, honestly, Eric Thomas was probably the first person that ever gave me the notion that I could be a public speaker and that could be a career path. First person ever. And I used to listen to him back in college before I even thought I wanted to open up a firm, before I even got into the industry of the entertainment industry. He was exposing me to a lifestyle that was impacting me directly. But now I can realize, I can use that same gift, that same talent, and look what he's done with it as like a blueprint to say, okay, this is as far as you could take it. And he's probably still going further with it. And that's probably the next best thing about it. And that's another thing. That's how we connected through Next Level. When I joined Next Level Speakers Academy, that was something where it gave me a blueprint and it put me in a community of other people who want to do the same thing that I'm doing. And I'm a huge advocate of a community. You need to have a solid community.
Yeah. One of the best quotes that you've said, and there's been a lot of them. I mean, you're on point with the quotes, man.
I appreciate it.
One of the best quotes you said is that Kobe Bryant changed his environment. He had the ability to change his environment and not the environment change him. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of times people struggle because we are limited by our environment, or we allow our environment to limit us. Right?
Yes.
And then we try to change our environment. but our environment changes us. And Kobe would do the opposite.
And that's all because, and the saying goes, I'm a product of my environment. But that's another limiting belief. Like me growing up in New York City, Brooklyn, late 90s, early 2000s, it would be easy for me to say, when I was playing basketball, I wanted to make it to the NBA. But that wasn't me. That wasn't something that I wanted to do. Well, I understood that I just needed basketball to help me get through college. And it didn't even work out the way that I planned it too. And that's another thing about like goal setting, that sometimes it's just not going to work out the way you think it would, but it's working out how it's supposed to. Because when I wasn't the most recruited. I didn't get into like the schools that I thought I was going to get into. And I really wanted a scholarship, but that didn't really work out. However, the way I did get onto my college team was through the networking. Quick story.
Yeah.
In my college dorm, we're on the 4th floor. The year I get into my school, they're coming off of at least their next best season, because the season I was in was their best season as a school. They made it to the Elite Eight. We made it to the Elite Eight. But they were coming back with a returning at least 6 seniors and another 2 juniors. So, and then they only recruited another 2 freshman players. So the team was already kind of stacked.
Yeah.
But I wasn't one of those recruits. But the 2 freshman recruits lived on my floor of my college dorm. I'm cool with them. One day, one of my friends says, "Hey, come with me to go talk to the coach." I'm all right, cool. We're going to talk to the coach. Go talk with the coach. He asks me my name. He's like, "I've heard your name somewhere. I don't know why, but I've heard your name somewhere." And that's right there. People are speaking about you in rooms that you are not even in yet. We've heard that all before, but that was the first, not even the first time, but just a prime example of that. So he's like, "Okay, how about you come to the preseason workouts with the team? Come do these conditioning and stuff like that we do anyway." Because the players were doing preseason conditioning. I would be waking up, doing my workouts with the team. I eventually get on the team as a walk-on because I met the coach prior to tryouts. I mean, they still held tryouts, but I made the team because I was already doing the workouts with them.
And you're putting in the work. Yeah.
And he saw my effort. So look, all I got to say to you, whoever's watching this right now, put yourself in the right environment. Network with the people that you want to network with. Because at the end of the day, once you get your opportunity, it's going to be because somebody was, one, speaking about your name in a place in a highly favored way that allows the decision maker to realize, oh, I need to work with this person. And then it moves into a space of, oh, okay, then you get the opportunity to say or show your work ethic, because work ethic is everything. Like, it's everything nowadays. And that's going to be even more of what's going to happen in the future, especially with AI. We're just going to get more efficient, but your work ethic is going to show.
Absolutely. I want to kind of wrap it up on that. You've blessed this audience so much. I truly appreciate you, David. I truly appreciate you being on. I appreciate your time.
Yeah.
I appreciate your wisdom. And, just thank you for sharing. Thank you for being on with me and having this conversation.
Of course, man. I just want to say to the audience, I'm human too. I was stepping into this space thinking that I wasn't enough to have a conversation with you, sir. And I appreciate your platform. I appreciate the work you're doing, because you're right. Success does leave clues. And you creating a platform to get to your audience, to show them this, I mean, this is the best way to do it. And I'm just grateful to be here and let your audience know that I want to let you know that self-doubt is not real. Your limiting beliefs are not real. But what you do with your mindset, that's what's real. And I always like to leave it at this, you respect the story, but I respect the teller, because God is always our greatest storyteller.
Amen, man. I appreciate that, man.
Of course, brother. Of course.
All right, y'all. Until next time.
All right, take care.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Success Leaves Clues podcast. Be sure to follow Dr. K on Instagram at Dr. K Washington or the podcast page at Success Leaves Clues Podcast. We'll see you here next time.